This is White Plains Week, the weekly news roundup. With your moderator, John Bailey, editor and publisher of the daily internet newspaper White Plains Citizen Net Reporter. Jim Benaroff, editor and publisher of SuburbanStreet.com and WhitePlains.com. And Peter Katz, noted broadcaster and journalist. White Plains Week, what's happened, who are the newsmakers, and what's in store for the future. The views and opinions expressed on this program are solely those of the participants. White Plains Week is presented Fridays at 7:30 and again on Mondays at 7 p.m. here on Channel 76. Now, White Plains Week.
Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. White Plains and Westchester and the world watching on YouTube, whiteplainsweek.com, and all you preservationists out there. May we have the envelope, please. And this is John Bailey. This is White Plains Week, the City News Roundup Show, and I'm with the anchor for all seasons, Peter Katz, on my right. He's been with us since 2007. And Jim Benaroff is on assignment tonight. And Peter, you have the headline news.
Yes, indeed, I do, John. And here are the headlines for this White Plains Week edition as we approach Thanksgiving. A 2-year-old girl dies in an electrical fire in the Fisher Hill section of White Plains. The designation of Soundview Manor as a landmark has been put off until another day. White Plains sales tax dollars flood in last month, up 7% over October a year ago. County sales taxes down 1% through the first 10 months of the year. It's been an optimistic budget forecast as far as sales tax receipts go for the county.
That's right.
Not-for-profits in Westchester want funding cuts in the new county budget eliminated. The county wins another round in the court fight against HUD in the affordable housing dispute. A developer breaks ground officially at 55 Bank Street. Big ceremony, we'll take you there. The White Plains Library Foundation raises $80,000 in funds at its annual gala. It asks for the city to come up with some money to match a $1 million pledge from an anonymous donor, and the foundation says they will raise money also for that match. White Plains native Phil Cly, who won the National Book Award, is honored by the library. The Westchester Broadway Theatre raises more than $15,000 for the Hudson Valley Honor Flight group, and they stage a special benefit, the All Hands on Deck show. We'll show you some of that. Burger King is going into the former McDonald's space at the Galleria in White Plains. And those are the headlines, John.
Thank you, Peter. And now we go to the White Plains Week Rollo Newsreel March of Time, and you are seeing a shot of Phil Cly, who is the National Book Award winner. He has written this book, and it has been praised by reviewers across the country.
Among those praising is none other than John Bailey.
Yeah.
You've read the book, and you were telling me this morning something about it.
Well, it's very realistic. They're fiction stories, and it has that feel. It's Spillane-esque. It's very manly, but it really rings true.
Mickey Spillane.
Mickey Spillane.
Yeah.
And but at any rate, I think it's great. He's a White Plains native.
So it's almost as if you were taken into the Army, I guess.
Well, yes, that's what is being praised about it, that he really writes really true dialogue, first-hand experience.
Right there.
And when he addressed the library, he pointed out how much growing up in White Plains, he visited the library, really learned a lot about a lot of things. His mother took him there, just as we took our daughter there. And that is one of the great things about the library. You never know exposure to library and reading and books.
Well, yeah, while we're on the library, it would be a good time to mention their fundraiser, which was this past weekend, and I know you were among those who attended.
Yes, that's right. Libby Hallahan, who is shown in the next slide, is presenting an award to Mr. Klein, and she's the outgoing executive director. She's done a great job there. And
she spoke at the fundraiser Saturday night, right?
She did, and then another speaker did point out that the anonymous donor or donors has contributed $1 million for building the rest of the first floor, which will consist of the I've forgotten what they're going
the
to
hub.
The hub, and they need donors to step up to deliver the extra.
They want to spend about $2 million overall on projects there, current projects there. And they had put out a news release in which they headlined that they had this $1 million gift from an anonymous donor.
Right.
Well, it turns out that it wasn't a gift
was a pledge.
per se. It's a pledge. And the implication is that the money will be turned over to them once they come up with the additional funding needed to complete the funding for what they've proposed to do.
The lead speaker Saturday night did say that they hope the city will contribute perhaps as much as $500,000 to it, and they want to raise $500,000 more. But
so $500,000 from the city, $500,000 in additional fundraising by the foundation, the $1 million pledge, and you get to a $2 million total.
Yeah, right. But anyway, this will be an interesting fundraising thing. Now, there was as long as we are on the discussion of Mr. Klein, we wanted to point out another really terrific fundraising effort, and we have video of that.
Well, actually, John, it was not just fundraising, really. Even though Veterans Day was last week, this was a special event here in Westchester this week with a World War II theme, which brought back memories for veterans and others who were there. And it took place at the Westchester Broadway Theatre in Elmsford. And it was a special presentation. They do special shows Monday and Tuesday night. And this special show was called All Hands on Deck. It was a World War II theme show. And while over there, covering the event, John, you spoke with Bob Foster of the Veterans of Foreign Wars.
This show was perfect. All Hands on Deck, you know, it's a USO tour show, and it's perfect for World War II veterans. And this year what we did with the Honor Flight, we told them, get us a whole bunch of World War II veterans, and we'll pay for their tickets.
And where are the veterans coming from? All around the county?
All over Westchester, yeah. And most of them have already been on the Honor Flight.
And how many do we have?
Well, we have about 30 veterans, and some of their people came with them, some of their wives and escorts. So a little over 50 total.
Bob, we understand that you actually saw an original Bob Hope show when you were in the service.
Yes, it was one of the late shows, and that was in Vietnam. Bob Hope started in World War II, and he did it every year. He did a Christmas show. And an amazing man. Super loved by all the military, really. And this show here, I think, is a reproduction of one of the World War II shows, USO shows. And I'm sure a lot of the World War II veterans here, some of them probably did see him back then.
And John also spoke with Bob Funking, co-owner of the Westchester Broadway
How did you
Theatre.
first get involved with Honor Flight and supporting veterans causes?
Well, you know, we've been involved with veterans causes for years now, even before Hudson Valley Honor Flight. We've done things for the wounded veterans, and we've raised money over the years for veterans causes. We really feel very strongly about it and try to do as much as we possibly can each year. And so we started with Honor Flight a couple of years ago, and we've been raising money, and we will present a very nice check this evening also, because part of the ticket price raised for the ticket price for these shows this afternoon and this evening will go to Honor Flight.
But how did you pick this show?
Well, obviously, it's really a patriotic show. It's a great show, and it's about the Second World War, and based on Bob Hope's USO tours and his radio show. So we figured this would be a perfect show for the veterans, and also to raise money for the veterans. And they have turned out. We had 400 people here this afternoon, and we have close to 400 tonight, with many, many veterans, as you will see as the evening progresses, when they are introduced and asked to stand up to represent their service, which we do.
And on stage before the show, Bob Funking presented a check for $15,000 to Beth Vogt, Executive Director of the Hudson Valley Honor Flight, and Bill Skenian, also of Honor Flight. Steve Calleran, the theater's host, is also on the stage. And in addition to the money for the Honor Flight, which was raised from a portion of the ticket sales and raffles conducted at various performances they do at the Dinner Theater. Funking also donated $1,000 to Fisher House, which is a group that arranges family visits for veterans who are undergoing medical care to help keep families together during trying times, which is nice. And as we reported on the show last week, Honor Flights is rather an active group, and what they do is they fly veterans to Washington to spend the day visiting the memorials which have been built to honor veterans. And the idea behind it is that we're trying to honor veterans. We've built these memorials, and yet there are so many aging veterans who are unable to get to Washington to see what the country is doing to honor them. So that's part of the idea behind Honor Flights. It's a national organization. They're very active here in Westchester, too.
Yes, and if you ever get a chance to see All Hands on Deck, the show, please do. It's one of the great patriotic shows I've ever seen.
Well, I tell you, it was one American standard and World War II song after another. It was a recreation, really, of a USO tour, a bond tour. They used to go around the country selling war bonds.
Hollywood
with
Victory.
Hollywood entertainers involved in that. And also a recreation of a radio broadcast called Command Performance, which actually was done during World War II. Out in Hollywood, stars such as Bob Hope would appear on the radio, and transcriptions, big 16-inch recordings, were then sent around the world to wherever the armed forces were fighting to be broadcast on Armed Forces Radio.
This is a great, this is the secret of the musical world, because this is a very successful show. They sell out everywhere they go
and
around
actually,
the country.
so they are touring now, but they're going to be doing a 3-year stint in Branson, Missouri, at a theater there starting next year.
Coup for them, yes. Now we go to something that is completely different but very related to the challenges veterans faced before, and many people around the world who are in the military are going to face again. And that's the shocker of the week, and that was that horrible attack on Paris last Friday, and this has dominated the news this week, and it's just on everybody's mind, and it has been shamelessly exploited for political gain.
Of course, you're probably saying, well, that has nothing to do with White Plains, but it has everything to do with White Plains, not only because of the emotional involvement that we all feel towards the victims of this, but also that as a practical matter, White Plains, like any U.S. city, could at any time become a target. We know that in their propaganda videos, ISIS says that they're going to hit New York. They claim they're going to hit Washington. Well, we are a suburb of New York. We are an active business center. We are a retailing center. We have right here in White Plains the kind of soft targets that we have seen the terrorists hit around the world. Just today, as we're recording this show, unfolding now is a story in the country of Mali, in East Africa, where it's not ISIS, it appears to be an affiliate of Al-Qaeda, has invaded a hotel. They have killed a number of people. They have taken hostages, apparently. Gunfire is heard. Explosions are heard. The details are still coming out on this. But it's only through some unity on the part of the population and great professionalism on the part of the public safety officials and staff here in White Plains and in Westchester County and throughout the region, throughout the country for that matter, that we will be able to deal with the challenges which certainly lie ahead.
Right. Now to the local scene. White Plains the White Plains Historical Preservation Committee took up Soundview Manor and the Good Counsel property last week and decided to postpone any action on Soundview Manor being designated a historical landmark.
And John, tell us the significance of that blue arrow in the center of the screen.
Well, you will see there's a black square where a window should be. Now that was totally open last week, and it was totally open yesterday when I went around to look at it, for figuring that maybe it's been closed up by now, but it's still open to the elements.
This is the building on the Soundview Manor property that the city would like to see declared a historic place.
Yes, but if it is declared a historic place, it needs incredible rehabilitation inside because heat was turned off and pipes burst, and there has been extensive damage, so I am told by a person familiar with the premises. So we will see what happens with that.
Now that property was recently sold, and we understand that the new owner would like to do some development on the site.
Yes, according to Rich Liebson's article who covered that meeting, he wants to build a new house for himself and another mansion. Now, it was approved for a subdivision many years ago, about 10 homes, but apparently, at least he didn't say he wanted to do that last week. But we'll see. Now, this raises a whole question of historically preserving designations because, as we found out on the bar building dispute many years ago when they wanted to tear that down to build the rest of the Renaissance Square Center, we learned that an owner has the right to tear a monument down if he owns it. Has the right to do so.
Well, there certainly would be various court cases involved.
Yes, but it is not a given that it has. So, but at any rate,
unfortunately, there was not a tear down situation, but there was a tragedy in a house in White Plains, and that took place up on Fisher Hill,
Tibbetts Avenue,
at
right
29 Nutgrove Street. It was the address given. There's a shot of the house that John took. You can see areas where the windows have been boarded up, where the fire actually was.
And they were doing rehab on the inside.
In the course of the fire, a 2-year-old girl died. Her grandfather, who was apparently trying to rescue her from the fire, was taken to the hospital in very grave condition. We don't have a recent report on him. He was identified as Charles Young, age 79, and the grandfather and child were discovered in the same bedroom. Now, one of the White Plains police, who was first on the scene, Sergeant Daniel McMahon, is given credit with rescuing the grandmother, a 77-year-old woman named Donna Young. And according to Public Safety Commissioner David Chong, both McMahon and other members of the police emergency service unit were close by when the fire was first reported, so they were able to respond very quickly and effected the rescue. Apparently there was a lot of heat, a lot of smoke, very, very nasty scene, but once the woman was pulled out, she was able to be given quick medical aid.
And we remind everyone who has smoke detectors in their homes to check the batteries, make sure they're operating, because a smoke detector will alert you to the first sign of extra heat or smoke and let you know about it.
Right.
So
Now,
important to check those batteries.
The investigation still is ongoing, as far as we know. They believe that the fire was electrical in origin.
Right.
So check your wiring. Don't use faulty extension cords. Be very careful with what you plug in. This fire broke out at about 11 a.m. On last Saturday. So these things can happen at any time.
Well, I remember when a generator fire set fire to a house
The outside,
in my neighborhood,
yeah.
and it starts really fast.
Yeah.
Right, the heat, flames, it's a terrible thing. Now, good news for the White Plains Budget Department. The White Plains sales tax dollars figures came in from the state yesterday, and it's a wonderful news, folks. October, the figures were up 7.1%, our biggest gain in many months.
And the best news, John, in my opinion, anyway, is that that's for October, and
Right.
the peak shopping season, the holiday shopping season, is yet to come.
Coming into the top shopping months of the year.
And why is it so important?
Well, we're already up 1% for the year.
It's so important because the more they take in sales tax revenue, the less they have to take in real estate property tax revenue, in theory.
The more they take in, the less you pay.
Yeah.
Right. Now,
And
the county is in not such good shape. If we get that slide back, inside, the county is claiming they have a 25 million sales gap, sales tax gap in revenues. And the reason for that is in this year's 2015 budget, they budgeted $528.2 million. The 2015 actual was $502.2 million. That's what we project it to be. So there is your deficit, ladies and gentlemen. And they over budgeted by about 26 million because according to the state, they received only 503. They said in their budget that they had received 507.5, but still that's a 4 to 5% over budget.
Well, now one of the things that they're doing in the new budget to try to deal with this is to cut personnel. They have about 25 positions they say they're going to cut, and they're cutting the money that's given to nonprofit groups throughout the county to help them in their good works. For example, we understand that the grant for the Westchester Westchester Arts Council,
County Arts
some
Council.
people still call it, like me, that's been cut by about 20% in the new budget.
Hudson River Museum too, 20%.
And these nonprofits are trying to get together and try to work to have these cuts restored. Typically in the past they do restore either all or part of the proposed cuts for nonprofits. Sometimes they don't, unfortunately, and so the nonprofits will do their best to be sure that this is a year where the cuts are restored.
Now, remember last week we showed you that the Bank Street had started?
Work over
right
there? Right.
And on Thursday we had a groundbreaking.
55 Bank Street is a mixed-use transit-oriented development that will provide the community with a dynamic mix of residential and retail space. The project will be developed in 2 phases. The first phase, which is the northern phase adjacent to 15 Bank Street, will consist of a 16-story building with 288 rental residential units, 3,000 square feet of retail, and a little bit less than 400 parking spaces that will be for the benefit of both the residents and the commuters of the city of White Plains. Phase 2, which is the southern building, virtually where we're standing, will consist also of a 16-story building, slightly fewer units, 273 units in that second phase, about 3,000 square feet of retail, and the balance of the parking for the benefit of both the residents and the commuters of the city of White Plains. The first phase will be completed in the summer and early fall of 2017, and we expect that the second phase will follow immediately thereafter.
Jim, thank you. This is fantastic, and Elcor really has put its stamp on the west side of downtown White Plains, from the building that's already occupied and has been a focal point of transit-oriented development here, to the new buildings which will pop up in a few short years. But we're so happy to partner with a great company and the City of White Plains. It's been a real partnership moving forward between Mayor Roach's administration, our administration, the Industrial Development Agency. But when you think about 500 jobs to build this, and then the residences of over 560, about 20% are affordable too, it really makes for a great type of prototype when you talk about transit-oriented development. One of the things that I try to do, even in New York City, is to pitch Westchester as a great place to work, but also to live. And in our discussions with executives in New York City and trying to get them to move into Westchester or part of their company to Westchester, we talk about the opportunity for housing and how easy it is for even residents of New York City to come right into White Plains, 31 minutes away from Grand Central, and you've got everything. So this city really has seen a major renaissance over the last 15 years, continued by Mayor Roach, and we're glad to be a part of it. So thank you to Elcor for your investment in Westchester and here in downtown White Plains.
This is a great day. You know, many people have come around to the notion that having people live in your downtown is the best way to rejuvenate your downtown. It's been demonstrated in this city and continues to be. And although this is the first large project in a while, it is just the beginning of another wave of development in our downtown that's going to be coming. And then back over your shoulders to the south, we have Westmoreland Avenue, which is a light industrial neighborhood. We changed the zoning to permit residential, and we already have a building, one of the buildings that is going to be converting over to live-work loft-style apartments. This end of the city, in urban renewal, you can see gleaming glass and stone, not a lot of street activity, doesn't generate street activity. That's why it's so wonderful to have a project like this come in. We have the grant. We're working now on the study of our transit hub here, the train station, and how we can better accommodate pedestrians, cyclists, and create the energy here that we already have on Mamaroneck Avenue. So that's where we're headed. This is a key component in that, and it's great that we have 20% affordable in this project at a time when we really need it, with proximity to transit. So this type of event doesn't happen with a lot of people working together. We work well with the county, we work well with the developer, and everyone involved. So looking forward to cutting the ribbon. And I have to say, I have to compliment you. I love a groundbreaking where the ground is actually already broken.
And right after that, we had the
Yeah, they handed out little miniature shovels as souvenirs.
Yes, they did.
Right?
I meant to bring it, but it's using it as a cocktail mixer.
Yeah, and Louis Capelli is the contractor on this. His construction company will be building it. We haven't seen Louis around town involved in development here in quite a while. Right. Down at the Galleria, we found out this week that if you remember the empty space where the McDonald's had been in the food court, well, now that's going to be filled by Burger King.
Right. And we have to move on out. John Bailey for White Plains Week with Peter Katz. Good night.
White Plains Week has been a presentation of White Plains Citizen Net Reporter, WPCNR.com, in cooperation with Channel 76. Comments may be emailed to WPCNR@AOL.com. The copyrighted print White Plains Cityscape by Leonard Weber is used courtesy of the White Plains Presbyterian Church. For information on its availability, you may contact the church at 761-8585. The views and opinions expressed on the preceding program were solely those of the participants. White Plains Week is presented Fridays at 7:30 and again on Mondays at 7 p.m. here on Channel 76. For White Plains Week, this is Seth Benarov speaking.